The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes Mr. Latta for 5 minutes for questions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for calling today's hearing. And Mr. Secretary, thanks for being with us. I'd like to go back to what the chairman had started in his opening statement and some questions on fentanyl. My seatmate and friend from Virginia, we have the Halt Fentanyl Act that would make sure that for once and for all that fentanyl is going to be a Schedule I drug. And I just want to make sure that you're on board that fentanyl should be a Schedule I.
Congressman, as I've said to the chairman and others, FDA agrees that we need to continue the scheduling of fentanyl. I leave it to FDA to make those decisions on how it should be scheduled. And FDA would also say we need a comprehensive approach when we deal with either fentanyl or other drugs that are killing Americans.
Well, that's important because, again, when we've had roundtables and hearings in here, I think it's important to point out that one of the terms I try not to use anymore is the word overdoses. It's poisoning, especially when we're talking about fentanyl. When you look at the over 71,000 people that died last year in this country because of fentanyl, it's poisoning. We had one sheriff actually say that when these drug cartels know what they're putting in these pills and sending them north, it's not poison anymore, it's murder. And so I'd like to just go to a sentence that you have and just ask a couple of questions on it. You said NIH will continue to invest over $1.8 billion in research on opioid misuse, addiction, and pain disorders, including the Helping to End Addiction Long-Term HEAL initiative. Now, the question I have is because, again, I'm not sure exactly when this has been put into place and how long it's been going, but as we've seen the trend of fentanyl poisoning and also all drug overdoses and other sorts going up in this country to about 107,000 in 2022, that the question then is this effective? Because again, in this committee, because we do have broad jurisdiction, when we talk about things that's online and drugs that are coming into this country, when we're being told by law enforcement and the DA and everyone else that when drugs are coming across this border, that the cartels are making a fentanyl-laced pill for a dime that are killing Americans. And they're making $30 to $40 off each of these pills. And so, as was pointed out earlier, that when you have 18 to 45-year-olds is the leading cause of death now is when you're looking at either fentanyl poisoning or some other type of a drug overdose. Are the initiatives of this $1.8 billion being effective right now?
Congressman, thank you for the question. I think $1.8 billion is a major investment. If in the wisdom of this body you wish to give us more resources, I guarantee you we'll make good use of them. But I understand that there's a conversation about cutting, not increasing, on your side of the aisle. So I hope that what you're
let me ask though, because again, what we had testimony from parents that have lost loved ones. And the question, and the problem is, again, as I said, these pills are flowing across the border, and then they're getting in through the internet, and pretty soon we can't even track where they came from. But when somebody buys one of these pills, a younger person, they're thinking they're getting X, Y, Z, and it turns out a fentanyl-laced pill. What's the department doing to warn Americans? Because again, with that $1.8 billion, you do a lot of information out there. Is what's going on, warning people, kids especially. Don't buy anything on the internet. And the reason I bring this up, it's been a few years ago, but I sponsored the track and trace legislation. And what that legislation did was to make sure from the time that a drug was manufactured, the time it was delivered, we would know every stop that it wasn't counterfeited or adulterated along the way. So, that's hopefully for a prescription drug or something else that's flowing naturally and legally through, that's people know what they're going to get. But how are we warning people online that are online today buying these pills that it's not a counterfeit or a knockoff? This drug could have, or this pill could have fentanyl in it that will kill you. And this is the problem. When we're seeing the numbers going up, and so that's my question on this is that, we understand research and misuse and addiction and pain disorders, but how are we getting the word out that people don't do this?
Congressman, much of that work is actually done not by NIH, but by SAMHSA, our Substance Use and Mental Health Agency, which deals with that. And they are working with states and local entities that are actually doing the work on the ground to support some of those efforts, to inform and to do the surveillance. They're also taking on best practices, using evidence-based practices. For example, fentanyl strips are now being made available. We are finally supporting that at a national level because we know it saves lives. You heard the news today that Narcan is now going to be available over the counter. The FDA has made that announcement. So we're doing the things that we can at the federal level to support the work that's done on the ground at the local level.
My time's expired. Are you back?
The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes Mr. Cardenas for 5